The ship that shouldn't exist, the void of space, was silent, but silence in space never meant safety. A lone scout vessel drifted along the edge of forgotten coordinates, its sensors searching for signs of old wrecks, lost cargo, or anything worth salvaging. The pilot, a young alien named Kriv, leaned forward when his screen flickered with an impossible reading. Metal structure detected, dimensions far larger than any normal freighter. Kriv frowned, tapping his console. This region was supposed to be clean, sterilized by the Galactic Council centuries ago. Legends whispered of a battle fought here, but no one believed the stories. The Council had always claimed they erased everything connected to humanity. Still, the reading grew stronger. Something massive floated in the darkness, half hidden within. A cloud of broken rock. Kriv's heart pounded as his ship light scanned the shadow. A giant hull emerged, scarred and burned, yet still intact. It was not just any ship, it was human. The sight froze Kriv's blood. The Council had told them all. Human ships were gone, erased, turned to dust. But this one floated before him. Like a ghost refusing to die, the surface looked damaged yet alive. Plates of strange black alloy shimmered faintly, repairing themselves in slow movements. Energy lines pulsed along the ship's spine like veins under flesh. It was not dead. It was sleeping. Kriv tried to back away, but the ship's sensors awakened. Before his engines could warm, a deep hum echoed through the void. Lights that had been cold for centuries flickered on, glowing with deadly blue fire. One by one, the ship's massive cannons adjusted as if testing their joints after a long rest. Kriv's console screamed warnings, power surge detected, life signatures unknown. He whispered in disbelief, "No, it cannot be real." But the stories he had laughed at all his life began to crawl back into his mind. The ancient record spoke of one ship, the terror of the old wars. The humans had built it to fight when they were cornered. It carried weapons no one could counter. Fleets had fallen. Worlds had burned until the Council gathered everything they had to erase it. And yet here it was, alive, breathing in the cold of space, too dangerous to exist, and yet existing still, inside. The ship, something stirred. The cold chambers where frozen humans had once slept hissed faintly. Monitors flickered alive, showing heartbeat signals. The crew was not dead, only waiting. Kriv could not believe his eyes. He tried to send a distress signal, but the ship jammed his systems instantly. A single message appeared on his screen, written in human code. It was old but simple enough to translate. "We are awake." Kriv's breath stopped. The Council had failed. They thought they had erased humanity's greatest weapon, but they had only buried it. Now it was rising again. The ship's engines groaned. Gravity around Kriv's small vessel twisted as the human ship moved. It was slow at first, but each second it grew stronger. As if feeding on the very stars, Kriv felt tiny, like an insect before a giant. The black hull reflected no light, only swallowing it. Its shape was not graceful like alien designs, but brutal, built for one purpose. War, Kriv's ancestors had. Told him stories of the last time humans fought. They said humanity never built to impress, only to destroy. Fear gripped him. If the Council learned of this, they would panic. If the rest of the galaxy knew, they would run. Because one ship had once slaughtered entire armadas, and it was still here, ready to finish what it started. Kriv made his choice. He turned his scout vessel and fled, his engines screaming. Behind him, the human ship lit up fully, stretching like a predator finally awake after a long sleep. Its cannons tracked the stars, searching, waiting, hungering. Kriv whispered to himself as he escaped into the void. The ship that should not exist still exists, and in the heart of that black monster of steel, the humans inside began to stir. Eyes opening, hearts beating, memories returning. They had slept through centuries, but now they knew one truth. The galaxy had not forgotten them, and they would not forgive. Fear in the Council. The Galactic Council chamber was vast, built to impress and to terrify. Walls of crystal glass showed endless stars, while banners of 100 species hung like trophies. But today, the chamber felt small. Fear had a way of shrinking even the largest halls. Counselors gathered, whispering in panic. Each delegate carried the weight of an empire, yet their voices trembled like frightened children. At the center, the high speaker struck his staff against the floor, demanding silence. "The report is confirmed," he said, his voice thin. "The human warship has awakened." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted disbelief, others screamed warnings. Claws slammed against tables, wings flared wide, tails lashed in fury. But through it all, one truth could not be denied. The ship they had sworn was destroyed still lived, an aged counselor from... The Valarn stood, his eyes dim with memories older than most. "I fought in the human wars," he growled. "I saw that ship tear through our fleets. I saw worlds burn." He raised a shaking claw, pointing toward the others. "You believed the council's lie when they told you it was gone. I knew better." "Humans do not die so easily," the younger counselors muttered among themselves. Most had grown up in peace, taught that humanity was a dead species. They never fought them, never smelled the smoke of human weapons, but the veterans in the chamber sat in silence, their faces carved with old scars. The high speaker lifted his hand. "This is not yet war. We must not panic," he said, though his voice betrayed his fear. "Our fleets are stronger now, our technology more advanced. One ship cannot defeat us." A bitter laugh broke the silence. It came from Counselor Dross, a reptilian commander who had lost 3 brothers in the last human war. "One ship?" he hissed. "You still do not understand. It is not just a ship, it is a weapon of extinction. It was built for nothing else." He slammed his claw into the table. "If it lives, then humanity lives too. And if humanity lives, then none of us are safe." The words chilled the chamber. Memories of the old war returned in flashes. The humans had been outnumbered 100 to 1, yet they still broke fleets and shattered empires. And this ship, the unkillable ship, had been the heart of it all. Counselor Yishel, a bird-like scholar, flapped his wings nervously. "What if it is only drifting, weak, broken, no threat?" he suggested. But Dross snarled back. "Broken? A broken ship does not awaken. A broken ship does not send signals. A broken ship does not hunt." The chamber grew darker, shadows stretching across their faces as the stars outside seemed to dim. One counselor whispered the question they all feared. "What if the humans inside are alive?" Silence. Every delegate felt the weight of those words. The humans were not just warriors, they were predators. Every species had faced them once, and every species had bled. The high speaker tried to stand tall. "Then we must erase it again," he declared. He looked around at the gathered powers. "We will form a fleet, the largest since the last war, and this time there will be no failure." But the chamber did not cheer. They remembered the last time the council had gathered the largest fleet. They remembered what had happened. Hundreds of ships reduced to ash, commanders slaughtered, soldiers screaming in the void. Counselor Dross leaned forward, his eyes cold. "You call it a fleet, I call it an offering," he said. "Send them if you wish, but they will not return." Fear spread like poison through the room. No one wanted to be the one to face the human ship. No one wanted to command the armada doomed to repeat history, but they all knew, if they delayed, the humans would grow stronger. Finally, the high speaker gave the order. "All empires shall contribute, all fleets shall unite. We will erase this ship. We will erase the last shadow of humanity." His voice shook, but his words carried across the chamber. And the council voted, each hand raised not with courage but with desperation. As the session ended, the counselors drifted away. But among the shadows, whispers grew. Some wondered if the humans had awakened by accident. Others believed it was destiny. And one old veteran muttered as he left, "The galaxy made a mistake once. It will pay for it again." Far from the council, chamber in the void, the human ship stirred. Its systems fed on hidden reserves. Its weapons whispered to life. Inside, the crew began to wake, eyes opening one by one. And somewhere, deep in its dark core, the ship's heart pulsed with a single truth: the galaxy had not erased it. The galaxy had only delayed it, and now it was time. The awakening crew. The ship's heart pulsed with cold energy. Deep inside its core, chambers long forgotten hissed as ancient seals unlocked. The sound was soft, almost gentle, but in the silence of space it carried the weight of thunder. One pod glowed faintly, frost melting away. A human hand twitched against the glass. Then another pod lit, and another. Rows of frozen soldiers preserved for centuries began to stir. Captain Elias Veyran's eyes snapped open. His chest heaved as if he had been drowning. Alarms whispered inside his head from the neural link. He forced his shaking hands against the pod door until it slid open with a hiss. The air was cold, sharp, filled with the taste of metal. He stumbled out, knees weak, gripping the edge of a console. Around him more pods opened, shadows of his crew emerging like ghosts from the past. Some gasped in confusion, others coughed as life returned to their lungs. Elias steadied himself. "How long?" His voice rasped, but the ship answered him. 321 years, the AI intoned, its voice steady, unchanged. Elias froze, staring at the glowing console. Centuries. They had been sleeping for centuries. Lieutenant Mira staggered from her pod, her eyes wide. Did we win?" she asked, voice trembling. Elias met her gaze, and for the first time in his life he had no answer. The last thing he remembered was fire, the Council's armada closing in, then blackness and silence. The ship's AI spoke again. "Mission status incomplete. Hostiles detected in proximity." Weapons systems flashed across the displays, cannons humming to life like predators growling. Elias felt the old instincts return, the soldier in him waking. If the ship lived, then their mission lived too. "Crew, sound off." Elias barked, his voice gaining strength. One by one, names were called, though many pods stayed dark. Out of hundreds, only a fraction had survived the centuries of sleep. But those who lived still carried the fire of humanity in their eyes. Mira touched the hull, watching the strange alloy heal itself. "The ship remembers," she whispered. Elias nodded. "It remembers because it was never meant to die." The AI flickered again, showing an image on the main screen. A small alien scout ship fleeing into the distance. Elias narrowed his eyes. "They've seen us," he muttered. "Then the galaxy knows," Mira added, her face pale. Silence fell over the crew. They all knew what that meant. If the Council discovered their survival, fleets would come, just as they had before. The war would begin again, whether they wanted it or not. Elias straightened, his jaw tight. "We were not erased, we were only delayed," he said, his voice cold. "If they fear us, let them fear us again. If they hunt us, let them bleed trying." The crew stood taller at his words. Fear was still in their eyes, but so was something stronger. Defiance. They had not chosen this future, but it was theirs now. Humanity had one ship left, and that was enough. The ship itself seemed to listen. Engines growled as if waking from a deep dream. The lights across its spine burned brighter. It wanted war. It wanted to finish what it had begun. Elias placed his hand on the command console. "Then we rise," he whispered. The AI's voice deepened. "Mission parameters updated. Primary objective: survival of humanity through annihilation of all threats." The crew exchanged glances. Some trembled. Others smiled grimly. They had been bred for this, trained for this, born in a world that had demanded survival at any cost. 3 centuries had passed, but the human spirit had not broken. Mira looked at Elias, her voice firm. "Then the galaxy will remember us." Elias met her gaze and nodded. "Yes," he said, his eyes hard as steel. "They will remember, and they will regret." Outside, the ship shifted in the void. The black hull gleamed, scars fading as its alloy pulsed with life. Its cannons aimed outward, hunting for enemies that would soon come. One ship, one crew, one purpose. The galaxy believed they had won, but in truth, they had only paused the war. Now, as human eyes opened one by one, as human hearts beat again inside that steel monster, the war was beginning anew, and far across the stars in their golden halls the Council would soon learn the truth. They had made the worst mistake in history. They had tried to erase the humans, but the humans had never left. The failed erasure. The void of space trembled as the first wave of alien warships arrived. Hundreds of vessels, gleaming with banners of a dozen empires, formed a wall of firepower. At their center stood the flagship of the Council fleet, its golden hull blazing under distant starlight. The command channels filled with voices, sharp, fearful, desperate. Target confirmed, one alien captain reported. The human vessel is active. Repeat, it is active. Orders followed instantly. All fleets prepare to fire. We erase it here. We erase it forever. But inside the human ship, silence ruled. Captain Elias stood at the command console, his eyes cold as steel. Around him, his crew tightened their harnesses, their faces pale but resolute. The AI's voice cut through the silence. Enemy fleet detected, numerical superiority overwhelming, probability of destruction, 0. Mira's lips curled into a grim smile. 0 for them, not us, she said. The ship hummed in agreement, its cannons shifting like a predator's claws. The alien fleet opened fire. Beams of plasma and torrents of missiles lit the void. The human ship shuddered as the storm of energy crashed against its hull. For a moment it vanished behind a sea of flame. The council commander shouted triumph. It is burning. It is finished. Humanity is gone. But their joy lasted only seconds. The fire faded, and the ship emerged untouched, its black armor glowing faintly as if it had swallowed the attack. Gasps spread through the alien fleets. The same fear their ancestors once felt now filled their hearts. One commander whispered, "It cannot be destroyed." Another screamed, "Fire again! Fire everything!" The void erupted a second time, but this time, the human ship answered. Its rail cannons roared, streaks of molten light cutting across the stars. Alien destroyers vanished in an instant, torn apart before their crews could even scream. Dark matter. Weapons pulsed, bending gravity, tearing ships into fragments. Plasma lances speared through capital vessels. One council cruiser, proud and mighty, split in half like fragile glass. The crew inside never had a chance. Elias gripped the console, his voice calm. Target their flagships, cut off the head, and the rest will scatter. Mira's hands danced across the controls. The ship obeyed with deadly precision. The council flagship trembled as the first human salvo struck. Shields shattered like paper. Engines burned. On the bridge, alien commanders screamed orders, but the terror was stronger than discipline. Retreat. One shouted, "Fall back, regroup." But the void had no mercy. The human ship moved like a beast, faster than anything its size should be. Every retreat path was cut off. Every maneuver countered, one by one. The alien ships exploded. Fire, blooming across the dark sky, fragments of broken fleets drifted in silence. Their proud banners, once raised high, now floated as ash, and through it all the human ship advanced, relentless, unstoppable. Kriv, the scout who had first seen the ship, now watched the battle unfold from a distant relay feed. His hands shook as he whispered, "They cannot erase it. They never could." Inside the council chambers, panic spread. Reports flooded in. Fleets shattered. Losses beyond counting. Councilors shouted over one another. "This cannot be. We promised the galaxy they were gone. We promised the humans were erased, but promises could not rewrite truth." And the truth blazed across the stars, undeniable. The human ship lived, and it was winning. Back aboard the vessel, Elias stood tall, his crew steady behind him. They had fewer numbers, fewer weapons, fewer allies, but they had what no one else possessed: the will to survive at any cost, and that will was carved into the steel of their ship. Mira looked at him, her voice steady despite the chaos. "They feared us once, they will fear us again." Elias nodded, his eyes burning. "No," he said. "They will do more than fear. They will remember, and they will never forget." The last of the alien fleet broke apart. Survivors fled into the void, carrying tales of horror back to their home worlds. The galaxy would hear. The galaxy would tremble. The erasure had failed again. The ship floated among the ruins of battle, its hull still gleaming, its cannons still hot, its crew still alive. Around them, broken fleets drifted like bones in the dark. The void whispered, with a single truth: The galaxy's worst mistake was not failing to erase the ship once, it was failing to erase it twice. The return message. The battlefield was silent. Wreckage of alien fleets drifted like broken bones through the void. Fires still burned inside shattered hulls, but no voices cried out, no signals called for help. Only the human ship remained, black and unbroken, a predator that had feasted and was now waiting. Inside the command deck, Elias stood with his crew, the glow of dying stars reflected in their tired eyes. No one spoke for a long moment. They had fought, they had survived, but they knew this was only the beginning. The ship's AI broke the silence. Enemy fleets destroyed, probability of counterattack high. Elias nodded slowly. They will not stop, he said, his voice grim. They never stop. Mira stepped forward, her hands brushing the console. They fear us, she whispered, but fear alone is not enough. Her eyes locked with Elias. They need to remember who we are. Elias tilted his head, considering. A cold idea sparked in his mind. For centuries, the galaxy had believed humanity erased, their names spoken only in hushed warnings and old myths. Now it was time to break the silence. Open a channel, Elias ordered. The AI obeyed, its systems, stretching across the void, searching for signals. Soon a path was found, a relay still connected to the Council's networks. Through that single thread, Elias's voice could reach the stars. He looked at his crew, his soldiers, the last children of a forgotten Earth. Their faces were scarred, weary, but burning with the same fire he felt. This was not just survival anymore, this was a return. Elias stepped closer to the console. The lights dimmed, the ship held its breath. His voice was calm, steady, cold as iron. To the galaxy, he said. To those who believed us gone. His words echoed through the relay, bouncing from world to world. We are alive. The crew stood straighter, their eyes fierce. We remember, Elias continued. We remember your fleets, your fire, your betrayal. His voice deepened, carrying centuries of rage. You tried to erase us, you tried to bury us. But humanity does not die. The message spread like fire across the stars. On mining colonies, workers froze as the transmission reached their stations. On border worlds, alien soldiers stared in horror at the human face glowing on their screens. On Council homeworlds, leaders listened in silence, their hearts sinking. Elias's voice thundered across them all. We are awake, we are armed, and we are coming. The last word cracked through the void like a blade drawn from its sheath. It was not a promise, it was a sentence. Mira's hands trembled as she cut the transmission. For a moment, silence filled the command deck again. Then, slowly, one of the crew whispered, They heard us. Elias nodded, his face carved with steel. Good, he said. Let them hear, let them fear, let them remember, far away. In hidden council chambers, panic exploded. Messages poured in. Outposts rioting, fleets demanding answers, citizens crying out in terror. The councilors shouted at one another. They should not exist. They were erased. But the truth burned on every channel, undeniable. Across the galaxy, whispers grew. Children repeated the words, The humans are awake. Soldiers remembered the warnings of their ancestors. Worlds far from the Council dreamed of rebellion. If the humans could defy the Council, maybe they could too. The human ship had sent more than a message, it had sent a spark, and sparks always lit fires. Back on the ship, Mira stared into the stars. They will come with everything they have, she said softly. Elias did not look away, his eyes fixed on the void ahead. Then let them come, he replied. We have waited 3 centuries for this war. The ship groaned, its engines glowing brighter. It no longer looked like a relic of the past. It looked like a weapon reborn. And in its steel heart, the crew felt the same. The galaxy had tried to erase humanity. But humanity had just written its name across the stars again. The war rekindled. The galaxy did not sleep after the human message. Worlds shook with fear, fleets scrambled in panic, and leaders argued through endless nights. Every empire swore it would not be the one to fall, yet every empire whispered the same truth. The humans had returned. The Galactic Council acted first. A call went out to every system, every world, every ship that could still fight. Armadas gathered like storm clouds, from the insectoid swarms of Zareth to the great reptilian cruisers of the Valarn. All answered. It was the largest force in recorded history, and all of it pointed toward a single target, the human ship. But the human vessel was no prey. It was a predator waiting for the hunt. On the command deck, Elias studied the battle reports with calm eyes. "They are coming," Mira whispered. Elias nodded. "Good," he said. "Let them come. It is time to remind them who we are." The ship's AI lit the screens. Enemy armadas approaching. Probability of engagement. Certain. The crew tightened their harnesses. Their eyes burned not with fear but with fire. They had nothing left but this ship, nothing left but war. And for humans, that was always enough. The first fleets arrived at the edge of the system. Thousands of ships glimmered against the void, their weapons bright as suns. The commanders shouted across channels, "Destroy the human vessel, no mercy, no delay." The storm of fire began. Lasers, torpedoes, plasma beams, every weapon the galaxy had poured into the void. The human ship vanished behind the blinding light. To the Council, it looked like victory, but victory was an illusion. The black shape tore through the flames untouched, alive, furious. Its cannons answered with roars that bent the void. Dark matter beams sliced cruisers in half. Rail shots punched through dreadnought armor. Like paper, explosions bloomed across the fleet as if stars themselves were dying. Alien commanders shouted in terror, "This cannot be!" It is only one ship. But one ship was enough because it was human. The human crew moved like one mind, every strike precise, every counter merciless. Elias stood like a statue, his voice steady. Break their lines, burn their pride, leave them nothing. And the ship obeyed. Mira laughed bitterly as enemy signals screamed. "They came with everything they had," she said. Elias's eyes were cold. And everything is not enough. The Council armada began to fracture. Some ships tried to retreat, others fought. In blind panic, but no matter their choice, the human ship hunted them all. It bent gravity to trap fleeing cruisers. It split carriers with plasma lances. It crushed battleships under weapons no alien mind could understand. Across the galaxy, the war spread. The human message had lit fires, and now rebellion burned in 100 systems. The Council tried to control its people, but fear made them weak, and every new rumor told of the same thing. The humans winning on mining moons. Workers cheered at the news. On border worlds, soldiers threw down their arms. Even in the Council's own core, whispers spread like poison. If one human ship could defy the galaxy, what would happen if more still lived? Back on the human vessel, the crew gathered after the battle. Their faces were tired, their bodies bruised, but their hearts burned with victory. They had not only survived, they had begun something greater. Elias looked at his people, his voice low but firm. "The galaxy tried to erase us," he said. "They tried and they failed. Now we rise, now we fight, and we do not stop until every world remembers." The crew roared back, their voices shaking the steel around them. The war had been rekindled. Not a war of empires or borders, but a war of memory and vengeance. For centuries, humanity had been a ghost. Now it was flesh and fire once more. And across the stars, every alien who heard the name of humans whispered the same words. The worst mistake. The galaxy's worst mistake. The Council chamber was silent, not with order but with fear. Reports lay scattered across the tables, fleets destroyed, colonies abandoned, rebellions rising. Every word told the same story. The humans were not. Erased, the High Speaker trembled as he read the last report. "The Third Armada has fallen," he whispered. "Entire sectors. Gone." His hands shook, his voice breaking. "This is the end." Councillor Dross, scarred from the old war, leaned forward with cold eyes. "The end began centuries ago," he growled. "When you failed to destroy them completely, when you promised they were gone but let that ship survive, His words cut like knives. The galaxy's worst mistake was mercy. The younger counselors cried out. It was not mercy, it was victory. We saw them burn, we saw their worlds fall, but even they could not ignore the truth that spread through every system now. The humans had returned, and they were stronger than fear itself. Far from the chamber, the human ship moved through the void like a storm. Its engines burned brighter than suns, its cannons glowed like the wrath of gods. Inside, Elias stood with his crew. He watched the council transmissions flood in. Panic, despair, orders that no one obeyed. The galaxy was breaking, and he knew why. They thought they erased us, Elias said, his voice steady. They thought history would forget, but history remembers, and so do we. His crew stared at him, their faces lit by the glow of ruined stars. What now, Captain? Mira asked quietly. Her voice carried the question that weighed on them all. Elias's eyes burned. Now we finish it, he said. They wanted us gone. Now we will make sure they never forget. The ship's AI echoed his words. Target, locked council core worlds within range. Silence fell across the deck. Every human there understood. This was no longer about survival. This was judgment. The ship cut through hyperspace. Alien fleets tried to bar its path, but none survived. Every system it entered fell silent within hours. Every resistance crumbled. The legend of the unkillable human ship grew with every strike. In the outer colonies, children repeated the message with trembling voices. We are alive, we remember. We are coming. On distant worlds, soldiers laid down their weapons before battle even began. The fear of humanity spread faster than any weapon could. The galaxy itself was breaking under the weight of a single name. When the human ship finally emerged near the Council's home sector, entire fleets fled without firing. Some ships surrendered at the first sight of its black hull. Others destroyed themselves rather than face it. The Council's proud banners, once symbols of control, now burned like rags in the void. On the command deck, Elias looked into the endless stars. He remembered the last war, the betrayal, the centuries of silence. He remembered the Council's promise to erase them forever, and he felt the weight of every human life lost. This is not revenge, he said at last, his voice quiet but sharp as a blade. This is justice. Mira's eyes filled with fire. Justice for every world they burned, she whispered. Justice for every child they silenced. The ship prepared its final strike. Cannons aimed at the Council's heart. Engines roared. Like thunder, the AI spoke one last time. Objective. Memory restored. Enemy annihilation. Imminent. Elias raised his hand, and in that moment, the galaxy held its breath. On every world, in every system, in every corner of space, the message was clear. The humans had not only returned, the humans ruled fear itself. As the black ship unleashed its fire, the stars themselves seemed to cry out. Worlds shook, fleets shattered. The Council screamed, in terror, and the last words they heard before silence claimed them were Elias's. You should have erased us completely, he said. Now you will remember us forever. The void swallowed the Council's last hope. The galaxy's worst mistake was carved into history, not just the failure to erase the humans, but the failure to understand them. For humans were not a species that died quietly. They were a storm, a fire, a shadow that rose again and again. And now, with one ship and one crew, they had reminded the galaxy of the oldest truth. Humanity was too dangerous to erase.